Usyk will
You're gonna be
quit.
taken to school.
Usyk will quit. You're
eat
wrong.
so many
You're
jabbies.
going to get the shock of your life.
No, it's better to burn out than fade away.
There we go.
He is not elite yet. Tell me one elite fighter he's beat.
You want to see what the Silk said?
Yes.
I don't know whether to float or gloat.
What size feet is he, Ben?
Hello and welcome to Sugar, Silk and Stretch, arguably the best boxing podcast in the world. My name is Ben Doughty.
My name is Michael Silkalajide.
And at the outset, ladies and gentlemen, I've got to explain to you, we had a little bit of a curveball tonight. Gary Stretch, the third leg of this illustrious trio, is on the road in Bulgaria. He's doing an acting masterclass tomorrow, and he's stuck somewhere either with no reception or still on the road. I couldn't establish which. And therein lies the other potential problem. We were hoping to have the guest tonight of Mr. Ivaylo Gotzev, who's a major mover and shaker in the business, has managed the likes of Gennady Golovkin, Siarhei Liakhovich, Samuel Peter, Kabrat Pulev, and Vassiliy Jirov. And that was going to be a no doubt very interesting conversation. Silk, I see that the guy's done plenty of interviews elsewhere with some of the big hitters like IFL TV and Fight Hype and the like. So,
First of all, I don't know whether to be jealous or happy that you didn't call me the third leg. I know Gary's going to like that statement very well. You said you essentially called him a dick.
Well, see, that's probably why I came up with it, because you'd already subliminally planted that phrase in my mind. Because you once said it, then you actually regretted it to such an extent that you said, "Can we get rid of that?" Because that was very un-me. You said that was very un-Silk. It was a little bit coarse and not cerebral enough for Michael Elajide Jr.
Well,
and you asked me, "Could we erase it from history?"
Cerebral enough now. I guess it's okay now.
Yeah. But I mean, like I say, it's a funny dynamic, really, isn't it? Because I think we know you guys say I'm the anchor. That's what I think you're saying. Sometimes the signal's not great.
Yeah, you anchor easily.
Yeah. So in any case, Silk, you know what? Ivaylo Gotzev may still. Sorry, that's my son Joseph, my autistic son. We've got a lot of curveballs this week. Joseph, what do you want? Tell me what you want, and I'll get it. Huh? Tell me. Okay. I don't know what he wants because he can't communicate. Are you going to come in the show? This is going to be really organic. And that, Joseph, you coming in the show? No? Like I say, I'd actually forgotten that Joseph was with me for 4 days. You know why? I'll tell you why. The ex has gone on holiday with my youngest son, and I'm looking after Joseph here for 4 days. So we're going to be kicking it, just me and Joseph, quality time.
Right.
In any case, okay, we do have someone here. Who is this? This is Ivaylo. Praise,
Okay.
I think it's saved.
Hey.
Hello, sir. Ivaylo Gotzev, welcome to the stage. We're glad you could make it, even though Gary has been waylaid or he doesn't have signal where he is in Bulgaria. But we're very grateful for you to give us your time, sir.
Welcome to the show. Pleasure. Fine.
Good. Thank you very much for joining us.
That's fantastic. Sorry we didn't wait for you, Ivaylo, but it was because we weren't sure whether you'd been waylaid because Gary was the point of contact. But it means we don't have to ad lib now. So, Ivaylo, I've already explained to the audience that you were a major presence in the fight game, having worked with the likes of Golovkin, Samuel Peter, Liakhovich, Vassiliy Jirov, and obviously more recently Kabrat Pulev. I believe you initially were inspired by the Rocky movies, and you dreamt of fistic glory inside the ropes at first. Is that true?
That's absolutely true. Actually, I'm surprised you've done some homework. But
I did my homework.
It's pretty amazing what a movie can do for a young kid, growing up in Bulgaria, especially. It wasn't easy, especially seeing the big country, US of A, boxing, the movies, Hollywood. We lived through Hollywood, stories. We were told stories, and it's amazing how, can affect one. Made me move all here, in the US. One movie.
And so you fought competitively in Bulgaria.
Sure. As a kid, I was boxing. That was years and years back. I remember my last fight actually was at 126 pounds, if you can imagine that.
Yeah, featherweight.
I walk around, 200 now. So, yeah. But yeah, that was part of it. Tasting the gloves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And you look in great shape now. That's pretty good. That's cool.
I was going to say the same thing. So, Ivaylo, there's a lot of businessmen in the game at a high level who never took a punch in their life. Do you feel it's important that you do have that automatic empathy with fighters? That you have been there, you have trained, you've made weight, you've been punched in the mouth. Is that important? Do you feel?
Well, back in the early days when I was, pretty hot, I felt like it was a big and important thing that, you should really try those promoters negotiating for someone's life, really, to put their lives on the line. They should know what it feels to get punched in the face and, and get a bloody nose and sweat blood and tears, like we like to say, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Taste your own blood. So it makes a difference and gives you the certain kind of appreciation for the guys that are taking the punches or going to ring. So most of my career, I was a manager, and with that in mind, really hard for my fighters. In fact, I made quite a few enemies and promoters. In fact, I had a pretty up being a tough negotiator, but that's why I did it for, because I knew what it takes to get in a ring and get punished. And for back then, it wasn't even a meal. I was doing it for the love of it.
How do you feel about promoters who manage a fighter also? Is that a fundamental conflict of interest? Should there always be someone between the fighter and the promoter?
Well, I think there should be some form of collaboration no matter what. I mean, you could be a Harvard graduate attorney such as Bob Arum and do good business and represent fighters well. I think it's, especially nowadays, we see it more than ever, the world is striving for collaboration, and I believe, look, in boxing especially, you got people from all walks of life, so you can't turn nobody, away. Sometimes I feel like there's the perfect misfits to get together and put on a show, right? So I wouldn't say, that anyone should take punches before they get in the business of boxing, but they should know what it takes representing a fighter, really. I mean, and guys put their lives on the line, literally.
Could I ask you what's the talent like in Bulgaria? Have you found any talent that you look forward to seeing in the future?
Absolutely. In fact, I used to say for years that there wasn't good enough talent, for me to go back there and sign a bunch of kids. In fact, I started with Bulgarian fighters back in 1992. I watched the Olympics and I seen some of my teammates, teammates, guys that I trained with in the gym, perform. And I was quite excited. And I went there in 1993. I signed half the Olympic team. That's how I got boxing. I was only 25 years old, and that lasted only about 2 to 3 years. Working with Bulgarian talent. Then I said, well, maybe we don't have deep enough pool. So I started working with the likes of Stevie Johnston, Hector Lopez. Those are the first named fighters that had. Stevie Johnston became a WBC lightweight champion.
Little but bad.
Little but bad Stevie from Denver, Colorado. Yeah, great kid. Yeah, so days and but going back to Bulgarian fighters, yes, there are quite a few good kids. Work hard, they get it. They get the gist of what it takes, to become a professional fighter. What you have to give up in a process, So there's some hard workers out there. I have my eyes on now.
Yeah. So let me ask you again on the second part of it. I'm sorry. The second part of my question is: so what exactly is your function, your title, and your function? Let's just say, when you find a fighter, do you bring him to a promoter, or you promote them yourself? You build up their image.
Okay, so here's how it went. Originally, I started managing fighters, right? So for years, decades, I managed fighters. I took him to the best promoters, such as Top Rank, Don King. I've worked with later. We had I had Samuel Peter, Nigerian Nightmare, who I signed actually with Len, who is his former promoter, Panos Iliad, Hispanics Promotions.
Yes.
I've been to Panos. In fact, I signed Samuel to Panos, and then Vassiliy Jirov also had a short time, with him. So yeah, I managed fighters, took him to the best promoters that could, negotiate some great deals, and then later on, I decided to move into the promoters game, and I've been promoting now successfully for the last close to 10 years.
Mostly in the States, or?
Mostly in the States, but we had some success in Bulgaria. We promoted Kabrat and his brother very well in Bulgaria, where he's got a home
Yes.
and great support. We worked well with your number one guy, Eddie Hearn. We took Kabrat to London back in 2020. And that show was during COVID. As a matter of fact, there was only 1,000 people allowed in the audience. We fought at the Wembley Arena. So, yeah, I successfully have worked with guys, in UK, all over the world, Been to Africa, promoted shows there. Kazakhstan, we've been there with Vassiliy Jirov. We promoted fights there. So,
yeah. So you tend to I mean, you were the only game in town in Bulgaria. Was that it? And then you were able to expand your internationally. That's where you initially started?
Yeah, well, I was the only man in town of Bulgaria that started, moving fighters. And like I said, story hasn't been completed. Originally, when I started representing Bulgarian fighters, the big idea coming from the heart was, to have our first professional boxing champion.
Yeah.
So we're on the verge of fighting for a world title with Kabrat against Mahmoud Char, which is, it's the WBA regular belt.
Mm-hmm.
But you wouldn't seriously claim that as a world champion, would you?
I would, only because I know what it leads to, and that leads to the number one spot with the WBA. So you're right below the man named Listen.
I hear you, but see, this is what I've got a major problem on the business side. I mean, I've trained fighters and managed a couple of fighters not at the level that you've operated at, but from any journalistic perspective, I've deplored the multiplication and devaluation of world championship status over the last several decades. And there was a guy that's working with Daniel Dubois right now. He's not his full-time trainer, Don Charles, but he does some work with him. And I saw on his Instagram the other day, he's got a picture of himself with Daniel saying, working with the heavyweight champion of the world. And it just, I don't mind this guy. He's okay. He's a cool guy, ex-fighter. But it just really vexes me to this day when people make these ludicrous claims.
You're just not
when he, that Daniel Dubois is not the heavyweight champion of the world. I know he isn't. It's not even as if he won it in some bogus affair like a sideshow. He was given it as well, essentially off the back of beating Hrgovic. So I have a major issue with that.
What belt does he have, though, Ben? What belt does he have?
Who are we talking about?
Dubois.
He has the IBF belt because Usyk gave it up.
Oh, so but he legitimately has the belt then.
How is it legitimate when he never had a fight to win it? They just upgraded him.
He didn't. Yeah, but they just naturally set him in as the champion, kind of like what they did with Ken Norton and
what they did with Ken Norton. Yeah, and that was just, so. Do you want to put your head in the middle of the screen, champ?
Oh, okay.
Thank you. You're too photogenic to be wasted on just half of you. I know but yes, I mean Ken Norton was the start of it because I don't think the public took it seriously until 1978, and they still didn't. I mean, guys like Bruce. Do you remember Bruce Woodcock fought for a world championship against a guy called Lee Savold in like 1949 when Joe Louis abdicated? But back then the public were not credulous. They didn't take it seriously. Today it's gone way out of control. And that's why I'm interested to talk to Ivaylo about it, because I understand it from the business side, and I understand it's about bargaining chips and leverage. But I guess I'm just introducing one another and getting to know one another. I was just telling Ivaylo that's one of my pet hates in boxing, but I understand the genealogy of the situation. You know what I mean?
Well, the only thing I can say to that is because I do agree it's quite confusing. I have to explain it all the time. What belt? You got to understand.
Yeah, you must have to your acquaintances who don't follow it like you do. You must have to.
So the way you clear that is by having the best fight the best. And that's what I believe in. And I think the fighters themselves make the titles,
Yeah.
And, look, there is a Canelo. I mean, what belt does he have? I don't know. I mean, there's Mayweather.
Well, he just recently dropped the IBF belt too, didn't he, Ivaylo? Because, one thing about the IBF, love them or hate them, they enforce their mandatories. And if you don't fight those guys, then they will strip a champion, even if it's Canelo or Usyk. They will,
Yeah. Well, it's all about making the best fight. So that's what clears the,
Are we seeing that today with the more so because of the infiltration of Turkey, Al Sheikh? Is that a healthy thing from your perspective?
Well, that's a healthy thing in a way. I see he spends a lot of money. How long can he do it for? That's everybody's question, you know.
Yes.
Got a
Yes.
lot of big fans. A lot of promoters are rushing to him
Yeah.
on the table. I'm sure he's overwhelmed trying to make the best deals he can. But at the end of
Yes.
the day, proven warriors and fighters that earn their stripes in the ring, and the belts don't matter at that point. You know, really. Although, I mean, with all due respect to the title organization, you know, I mean, when there's a Tyson Fury fighting Usyk, you know, and he gets whooped, which, you know, wow, you know, how did that happen? Then you do it again. Well, everybody's watching heavyweight boxing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Usyk is
And
the
that's
man vision, you know, and that's, I don't care what belt he's got, who's got the parts and piece of the other ones, but Usyk is the heavyweight champion of the world, you know. And
yes,
You know,
absolutely.
it almost feels like he's doing too much, Turkey El Sheikh. Like he's putting in more than he could possibly get out. It almost seems like he's expending that kind of money.
well, there's a fitting frenzy out there, you know, that he's creating, and I'm just watching this show, you know,
Yeah.
and
Because
I've
have you
been
seen there's fighters on Twitter saying, please, Turkey, put me on. Ryan Garcia or Claressa Shields or
fight,
a whole bunch of other guys, Devin
fight,
Haney, whatever. They're all saying,
fight,
can you make it happen?
fighters, managers, promoters, they're all like swinging for that, you know, for that home run
Yeah.
of money, you know, and that's unfortunately that's part of the game. But at the same time, you gotta have some dignity out there. You know, come on, guys, let's all work together. Let's not go chase one
Yeah.
person. Let's down. Let's see how we can all, you know, benefit to get boxing well, to get it better, to get it more, you know, back on
Yes,
top.
because Michael is concerned that we may see a dictatorship at some point within a certain time frame because of the way things are going now.
Yeah, well, it's kind of the way of the world. Everybody's from politics to boxing. You know, it's like
Right?
global
Yeah.
globalism is coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Two parties are
Yeah.
fighting. I get it, but at the end of the day, boxing. Let's face it. Boxing is strive for how many years, how many centuries now. I think is the top dog in a fight game. You know, here you have UFC
Yeah.
has done a great job with MMA, and I don't have a single clue of who their guys are or their
Yeah.
No.
belts. They won.
People talk about MMA Ivaylo and they say that they've got they sell their product better and they outperform boxing in this and that way. But whenever you get a blockbuster fight, it always absolutely dwarfs MMA, you know, or the
Absolutely.
UFC.
And there's nothing more electric than being on one of those fights in a big stadium arena and seeing that, catching that whole buzz, the electricity that a boxing event can create. I used to go watch Mike Tyson live, and believe me, everybody's, oh man, those were the days, you know. Those were
Yeah.
the days. We're coming back. We're back in the saddle. There's
Well,
some
you saw Tyson fight actually in the flesh.
of course, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, which fights? Just
Oh,
quickly.
I've
I mean,
seen some good ones. I've seen him with well, Bruce Seldon is when he came out and here. I think it was the game he fought. Evander Holyfield. I've seen those fights. Both.
do you know what's interesting about the Bruce Seldon fight is that was the night that the Tupac got shot, right?
That's right. And I was ringside. Actually, a little story goes. I had both Vladimir Klitschko in that fight. Me and Don King. I was
Yeah,
sitting with them, and Tupac was like a couple of rows in front of us. You know. So I knew
yeah,
he was Canadian, but I say, well, that's a great, you know, rapper. I was there that
yeah.
night. He got shot.
Wow.
Okay, yeah.
So it's a question. Sorry. What fight do you most look forward to in boxing today? Like, if there's one fight that you want to see, which one would it be?
Well, you know, I'm partial to the heavyweight, you know, division. Honestly, I mean, that's who. I mean, I've one time or another worked with 7 heavyweight champions of the world, 2 from scratch, in Samuel Peter and Siarhei Liakhovich. And I worked
Yeah.
with Tim Rackman, Shannon Briggs, James Toney, Alexander Povetkin, to name a few. And I like heavyweights. And right now, I'm really impressed with what Usyk has done, because he's outsmarted all of them. You know, small men to come up and do, you know, this is something I personally admire. You know, and I see his
Yeah.
skill for a small man to do what he's doing to the big guys. That's amazing.
Yeah.
He's unique. I like Lomachenko for his style. I mean, of course, American boxing, British boxing, guys are like, you know, you've taken over the heavyweight for a while, you know, with George
Yeah.
Fury. And Fury, I was a big fan of Fury, you know.
Yeah. Can Fury? Do you fancy Fury to win the rematch, or would you expect Usyk to repeat the win?
Do that, and if he keeps it straight, here, he's got the heart. I mean, but he's got to be disciplined and perform the fight of his life. To and be victorious this time, because he could do it.
Who would you bet on if you had to bet?
Well, there's a boxing saying: a good little man always loses to a good, big man, right?
Yeah, that's the axiom.
And that in mind, you would think, Tyson Fury should do it this time. But, Usyk is amazing. He's always amazed.
Yeah, he is. I think I was the only one of us three, Gary and myself, that picked Usyk to win. And
yeah, we predict the big fights on this podcast as a running kind of competition, and Silk was the only one who picked Usyk. Myself and Gary very vehemently, strongly fancied Fury.
Funny enough, I started when the first fight was first announced. I always thought, well, Tyson Fury is going to get him, and then as the fight got closer, and I was watching both guys' state of mind, as you guys, you being a fighters too, this is a very mental game,
Yes.
And
I think it is important too to watch the build up. When somebody says, "Who do you think is going to win this fight?" and maybe it's 10 weeks out, and you say, "Ask me 2 weeks or 1 week before." Well, you want to see the fighters interacting and training, and see them maybe interacting at their media calls. You can get something from that, right?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, 2 weeks, even longer, close to a month before the fight, I picked Usyk as well. Initially, and then I was watching him, and I said, "This is the man's going to upset, the apple tonight." And he did.
Yeah, I just believe in Usyk's skill so strongly, and I don't think that Tyson Fury has the. I mean, even just the necessary ability that he needed to learn to do the things to beat Usyk, because he's always done things his own way. He only does things that he's comfortable with, and that's been enough for everybody to defeat everybody else. Mm-hmm. But it's not going to be enough to defeat a guy as highly skilled as Usyk is. I can't see. Well, all the weights he wants and all the rest of that kind of stuff. It's a skill issue. It's not a strength or power issue.
Yeah. Well, he figured it out once before how to beat a Ukrainian fighter named Vladimir Klitschko, right?
Yeah.
So and that was all smarts, and I think he fought very intelligently, and I believe he could do it again back there. I was so impressed with what he did to Vladimir. He did the unthinkable, really. Because Vladimir was on top for 10, 11 years at the time.
Yeah.
And then him and his uncle, good friend of mine. He's a great. They strategized that fight, and they.
I was actually there that historic night in Dusseldorf. Sorry, that's my autistic son in the background. He's been very quiet up to now.
No worries.
I was there that night in Dusseldorf. It was actually a comically disastrous trip. I won't go into the details, but that was one of those trips from hell for me. But I was happy for Fury that he pulled it off, But see, I don't know, Silk. I think Fury was doing okay at one point in that fight, and there was a turning point somewhere. When you talk about a skill issue, at one point, Usyk adapted. It looked like he was having trouble dealing with Fury by the 7th round, but he found another gear and another approach.
I didn't see that at all. I saw Usyk winning. For me, he won the first. He took the first 3 rounds, and then after the 4th round, he came along and Fury got a couple of rounds in, and maybe even buzzed. Hurt him.
He was hurting him in the 7th round. He was starting to beat him up almost, and then
after that, Usyk just turned it around from there and just really went through him. I thought it was. I thought it was a comfortable win for him. I didn't think it was close at all. But an excellent.
But then you're the guy who doesn't score fights with a pen and paper. You just watch it and decide in your Delphic wisdom what has transpired. I understand that, but it's never going to be enough to actually talk about scorecards or anything like that.
No. I think the only thing we can do is go on our records, right? And
of predictions, okay. You've got to score a fight to talk about a decision, really. But regardless of that, let's change tack because it's not until December the 21st the rematch. Tell us about Gennady Golovkin, Ivaylo, and your involvement with that particular great fighter.
Yeah, Gennady Golovkin actually. I knew first was 2001, where actually Vassiliy Jirov and I traveled to Kazakhstan, Almaty, where we promoted a fight for Vassiliy Jirov. And I heard about this 18-year-old kid that was knocking all the men out. And back then he was on my radar. So when I got the call in 2009 to bring him over to the States, I was so excited because I knew who he was. And he was just getting away from a contract with University Boxing in Germany. He was free agent, and I was managing back then. They called me in for an advisor, so I signed him an advisory agreement. And he came to the States, where I presented him to Top Rank. And when he says, "Look, this guy's going to be a great world champion, and what a talent he's got." So they knew a little bit of him, but they didn't quite get the kind of monster he was. And that's what good scout does. That's what I did. I always find and I represent down to them. And then somehow things didn't work out with Top Rank, so we ended up to do our own thing. And
with Tom Loeffler, right? Tom Loeffler and is it called K2? It was called K2, I think.
Tom Loeffler came in later, in his career. But when he first got here, we actually arranged for him to fight for the WBA title. Anthony Mondin was in line, and we did a big bid for that fight. It was like, I believe, close to 1.4 million to fight Mondin for the vacant title. And Anthony Mondin wanted no part of Gennady, so they declined that kind of payday. We won the purse bid. We're going to do the fight in Australia. So then we ended up fighting for the title against Milton Nunes, I believe was the guy, in Panama. With the great Roberto Duran and ringside, and came in. And that's when Gennady won his title, And another interesting fact is when he first came to the country, they wanted to meet Freddie Roach and insisted to meet Freddie Roach. But I had a trainer by the name of Abel Sanchez up in Big Bear, who was at the time training Samuel Peter. Says, "No, you come see Abel. That's our guy." And he was training, like I said, Samuel. We went up to Big Bear, and I fell in love with that whole environment there up in the, near the lake, high altitude, great gym. And that's how he started his working relationship with Abel Sanchez.
What do you think those trainers or Abel Sanchez did for Triple G that nobody else has done? What did they give to him, do you think?
Well, when it comes to fighter-trainer relationships, and take all the great ones, I believe that there's a particular chemistry between the trainer and fighter. It has to click, Like the best trainer for Manny Pacquiao, but he's not the best for, let's say, someone else, So
absolutely,
that chemistry needs to click. In fact, what I do with my fighters, and what I did with them and still do, is I always recommend the trainer, but I don't enforce. That's the guy you got to choose. Go and spend, a week with him, have a few training sessions, see how you two click. So I think the trainer can make or break a fighter. I really do. But there's that chemistry. Of course, we're talking about talent meeting talent. I mean, we're not talking somebody off the street that couldn't train a dog how to sit and train.
Have you seen a potentially great talent ruined, in your opinion, by the wrong trainer?
Funny you said that. I believe in the cases of a father turned trainer, there's few those where a father could have too much of a fatherly approach to training. And I mean, there are a few. I don't want to bash on anybody, but I do believe that
I figured that.
there's been some of that for sure. Because
some relationships which have not worked out ideally.
Absolutely. And I mean, trainers, they really got to be mentors. They got to be very strong with psychologically, preparing physical and all the skills you got to get in a fighter's head. And especially when it comes to those 12 rounds or 10 rounds, the professional fight, that you're going to need that mentor. You're going to need that strategy, working when things don't go so well between,
Absolutely. Because that's the other thing, Ivaylo, I think, is there's a difference sometimes between a good coach in the gym and a good cornerman and a good strategist on the night in the heat of battle. Some guys are both. Some guys are one or the other, and some guys are neither. Like you say, they've just got into a certain position somehow when they perhaps don't have the best qualities for that particular job.
That is true. That is true. And so much depends on a good team. So much depends on a good team, from managers to trainers to fighters. When it all clicks, that's when magic happens.
Yeah.
What fighter? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ben. You had a question?
No, I was going to say, I think you wanted to. I was about to say, you look like you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what fighter would you love to work with today and why? Like any fighter, pick any fighter in the world.
Okay, well, listen, that's a good question and a hard one to answer right off the bat. But I like to be around and not necessarily work with him. Is like I mentioned, Usyk. He's a great guy that I just like him. I don't know. There's something about that guy that I like the way he's.
Yeah, positive, really good energy.
I would love to work with Tyson Fury and find out what really he's about behind the cameras, because I think he puts on a show.
He does.
Camera, and then I've seen him, and I've seen him when he comes to Top Rank, and then he kind of like unplugs and he's just a guy that.
I think you're absolutely right, Ivaylo. I've been around him a few times over the years, and he can be strangely shy and almost standoffish when there's not a camera or a crowd around him.
Yeah, I like to shoot the shit with him, really, to see what kind of what the real man behind the Tyson Fury aura is,
Mm-hmm.
And talk to even Anthony Joshua. I think he's a great kid. Well, back some demons inside. I think I've seen a couple of his. They came out, in a build up of Kabrat Pulev. But I think he's a great kid. I mean, to be honest with you, there I couldn't pick one. I like to be there.
What did you talking to Joshua and you talk about the complexities of these characters compared to the media good guy sort of promotion? What did you make of his outburst after the second Usyk loss? Some people criticised him for sounding off, talking inappropriately, and throwing one of the belts down. What was your take on that whole situation?
Well, my take on it is I'll answer it simple. Anyone goes in against Usyk and takes punches from Usyk for 12 rounds, who's extremely challenging opponent, and then see the state of mind you're going to be in. Of course, he could have maintained different composure, but these are kids. To me, they're kids. And they lose it at any time, any given, between rounds or after fights. So they're allowed to make mistakes. Let's give them that. I mean, I know more stoic. Of course, he represents a big British empire of boxing, right? So he needs to, carry himself well, but at the same time, they're allowed to make a few mistakes. That's what I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Something I've got to ask you while I get that tiny bit of silence, because usually on this show, and it's even worse when Gary's here, by the way, we're all competing with each other on the guest for questions. And
I was going to ask you a question, but I didn't want to interrupt you because I thought.
No, you don't have to do that now.
You were going to reprimand me after.
Yeah, exactly. That was an inappropriate interjection. I'm still training this guy, right? But regardless of that, since there was a little pause there until you decided we're gonna suddenly start talking at the same time. Some on my Facebook page, someone said they wanted me to ask you about Kabrat Pulev and that incident with the presenter lady that he supposedly forcibly kissed, and they were making a bit of a thing out of that at the time. I don't think it came to a whole deal. It's not something I would have asked you about of my own volition, but someone said, ask him about that, so I throw it to you, Ivaylo.
Sure, I could talk about it openly because it was quite the case. And Gloria Almighty Allred is the one representing that young lady. But, I saw the whole situation, the chemistry and how it all happened. Kabrat didn't force. I think she was forcing herself, literally, going forward, all night, and that's what it was. And it was just a very friendly outburst of excitement, I guess. And Kabrat did something that he shouldn't have done. But the lady had all night to think about how she's going to respond to that. And guess what she did all night? She was on a party all night, having fun with the boys, like dancing and drinking and partying and talking and doing all that. So she was super friendly. I think she quite honestly wanted to be with Kabrat. That's my take, watching from a side. Now, I don't want to incriminate myself saying something, but this is what I saw with those set of eyes,
Yes.
This goes with
And
what
she
I saw.
makes a complaint later.
Yeah, as somebody thought, hey, by the way, you could do this, and sure enough, she had her, minute of fame.
Notoriety. Yeah.
I mean, but we paid dearly. Kabrat was suspended. Went through a court battle with her attorney and ours representing our case, and I think Kabrat did I think nothing wrong based on the way the girls
Reading the situation. Yeah.
reading the situation. But again, that's only one man's point of view. I mean, for someone else, it could be a worse disaster. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Silk?
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, I've actually been to Bulgaria twice. And the first time I was there, I did a movie called Chuck on Chuck Wepner with Liev Shriver.
Oh, wow.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So we were right there in Bulgaria. And the second one I did, it was the Black Dahlia, starring Josh Hartnett and Scarlett Johansson. And
Whoa.
and the gentleman that did The Godfather, what's his name? I can't believe it.
Francis Ford Coppola.
Okay, let's just say yes. It was
The
him.
director, you mean? You mean the director?
The director, yeah.
Yes, Francis Ford Coppola, yes.
Yeah. Well, he did the Black Dahlia as well. So it was that one. So it may not be him. I don't know. I'll find out. But yeah, it was amazing. It was a beautiful country. Like it was just, I mean, I loved it. There was a peace in it. There was it was like, it was just so natural and cool. The people were like down to earth. We stayed at let's see if I remember the hotel. It was like, I think it was the biggest one there, and the whole gang was there. It was.
Oh yeah, it's called Hotel Marinella, and it's that's where it used to be the hub for all the action coming through the movie and the industry coming there. Yeah, now they're but yeah, Bulgaria's been a good hub, and a good place to film.
Yes.
There's quite a good production going there right now with great service industry guys in the film industry, and more producers are coming in now. And in fact, I know a few of them. I just had a meeting with one in Beverly Hills, Capstone Films, and Christian Mercury, which they like Bulgaria. Everybody likes Bulgaria, and we have great stuff in film and production. And we're expanding.
That's why Gary's been there for quite a long time now at this point.
Yeah.
I know he did a movie with Mickey Rourke a little while ago.
Correct.
Last year.
And all I add to that is the best is yet to come for Gary, because we're planning some great projects with him, and I think he's an amazing actor. Besides, the boxer, great boxer. I only got familiar with him and his skills recently. I remember way back then I've seen his name, but never did I see him so good in the ring and film. He could act. This guy can really act.
Yeah, he's a major talent. He's just a talented guy, like you say, and it's kind of funny how it came about that he came to be on this show, because it was just a random communication with Gary about a year ago, and we had him on as a guest like yourself, and he liked it so much that he said, "Well, could we just do it as the three of us?" And we were like, "Okay, I guess so," and that was how it came about. But I see that Bulgaria is becoming a major kind of hub for the film industry on a location.
And I have a new name for Bulgarian movie industry. Hollywood, we have Bollywood, now we have Bullywood in Bulgaria.
Cool.
I like that.
You heard it here first. Yes.
May I ask, do you stay in touch with a lot of the fighters that you used to work with? Like, do you know what Jirov is doing now, for instance? Or
yeah, I know Jirov. He's a great guy, and he's in Arizona. He's had two. In fact, he met his wife back in 1996, and man, what a history there again. Him and Liakhovich is still there. I check in here and there with them. Vassily's turned trainer now. He's very spiritual too. He's done a lot of transformation as a fighter. He quit eating meat. He's a vegan and all that. So
I heard that he used to eat raw food, Ivaylo. I heard he not only was he a vegan, but I heard he would only eat purely raw produce.
All true.
He didn't cook anything.
I haven't checked on his state of elevation, but he's quite high up in his in spirit. So he's done all that. Yeah, he does.
Let me ask you, I remember the first time I heard about Jirov and he was fighting, and I believe there was a story of I think his coaches locking him in a room with dogs, with attack dogs or something.
Yeah, that, and then he threw him in the middle of a lake, which is a huge lake ball high up on a map, and had him swim back to shore. So he had the rugged way of bringing him up, you know. So
that reminds me of a kid. There was a kid over here who was 10-0 with Frank Warren, and then he just disappeared, kind of thing, off the scene. But his father had this really hardcore approach to training him. We spoke earlier about father-son relationships. They would live wild in the forest. It's called the Forest of Dean, somewhere in England, between England and Wales, kind of thing. And they would live rough, and he would teach them how to hunt, and they do the craziest training. The kid would be lifting bricks and walking through lakes, like you said. One time, this is really wacky, but one time I heard he locked him in a sunbed. You know when you go to get a tan inside the sunbed? He locked him in there just to see how he'd handle it for, like, I don't know, 2 hours or whatever. And the kid comes out.
When he came out, he said, "That's not my son."
Yeah, but no doubt, yeah.
Well, hopefully that kid didn't get eaten by wolves somewhere out there in the forest.
Yeah. But it does remind me of this really hardcore, old, it's like throwback Spartan approach he used to have. You know, obviously maybe that was the way that Vassiliy Jirov was reared as well, and it obviously didn't do him any harm.
Yeah, well, trainers can come up. They can be quite creative. And this guy, Pachinsky's his name. You know, that he was extremely rugged in his approach.
I got another guy who wants to join in the fray.
Oh, there he is.
I've always been of the belief that any energies, creative or physical, anger, all that kind of stuff, should be saved for the fight. Anytime you have to go to those things before the fight, especially in training, they're not necessarily so good for you. You have someone else.
Signing Gary.
Oh,
hey
Gary.
guys,
What's up, Gary?
Hey. I'm just landed at the hotel, so I'm sorry I'm so late, but we were driving and we just got here.
All right.
Well, we've taken
How's
care
my
of
brother Ivo?
Doing great. We're carrying on a great conversation here. Glad
There's
to have
a lot of stuff you don't know about Ivo, Ben.
Yeah, no doubt there is. I'm sure there is. I mean, I started on a good note when I told him about his Rocky fantasies as a young boy. He was kind of appreciative of that little bit of homework. But there's certainly much more to learn, and I've been learning in the course of this last 40
Ivo
minutes.
and I are getting into many things, but he's also very heavily involved in the film business. So maybe you could talk to him about that.
Yeah, we were. Funny enough, we're ahead of you, Gary. We were talking about the movie business. He said he's got a lot of things planned with yourself. He said that he was talking about what a great actor you were, but he said he never realised till recently what a good fighter you were as well. So we've been discussing the movie side of things.
I wasn't that great. I did a little bit, but not too much.
Yeah, well, you did more than most.
That's for sure.
So we're 43 minutes in, guys. Maybe we could maybe another 10 minutes, as long as that's all right with Ivaylo. And
let's shoot.
What do we want to ask? Mostly boxing focused. Let's talk about Golovkin. Golovkin has never officially retired, has he?
Did you talk about his beginning, Ben, or not?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'm sorry, I missed the whole cast. So
yeah,
okay,
yeah, we're 43 minutes in already. Ben.
Yeah,
but Golovkin has never officially announced his retirement, so far as I know, Ivaylo. Is that something? Is that because he hasn't retired, or just because he's not going to announce it formally?
Well, I believe he's thinking it all out. Obviously, if a great fight comes along and he wants to take it, he's a kid that always kept in good shape and lived a good lifestyle. So can he come back again? Sure, absolutely. Maybe that years of rest has done him well, but I'm sure he's got one more fight left in him if he chooses to take one. Yeah, absolutely. If he hasn't announced this special, probably on his mind.
I'm sorry. There's so many things I want to say at the same time, and I'm sorry to interrupt you. But I was going to say about Golovkin, he's probably one of the only people I've ever met. Like, there are people that develop certain punches, like Aaron Pryor had the Quasar Bolo punch, and Jose, it wasn't Jose Napoles, it's the Cuban Hawk. Used to have the Bolo. Yeah, used to have the Bolo punch, and Ali had the shuffle and everything. And Golovkin one time I remember watching him. He was fighting in California, and from an orthodox stance, he threw an overhand left and knocked this kid
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
I thought that was the most amazing thing. If somebody told me that they saw somebody knock somebody out with an overhand left, I'd say, no, you're nuts.
From the orthodox position, yeah. Because
Yeah.
he would turn that hook right over. Sometimes it was a hook and he'd just really bring it down like this.
Yeah, it was like an overhand left from the left-hand side leading. So it's like you don't really have your body on the punch. So it doesn't have the same force as, let's say, a right hand or even a left hook where you have the torque for the turning.
Yeah.
But he came over like this and put a 10 count on that kid. I was like, wow. And that's, I mean, I was paying attention before, but
after that.
Yeah, after that was crazy.
Ivaylo, do you feel he was robbed at least the first time versus Canelo in 2017?
That's one everybody argues about. Absolutely, yeah. He that could have gone the other way, but then.
Well, it was a draw, wasn't it? It was a draw, but it was one of them draws that was where they feel like they saved the guy, the bigger commercial animal, the slightly bigger commercial animal.
The other way, clear win for him. Absolutely, there was no doubt. The first one was his, and then the trilogy came.
Yeah, the second fight was a lot closer. I can see. I still think Golovkin probably won the second fight, quite honestly. But I think Canelo did a whole lot better and had a much better game plan. I understand that. I understand the verdict for Canelo in his favour at least. Whereas I couldn't find an argument for Canelo in the first fight at all.
True.
Do you think Golovkin has the type of fight attitude that people usually associate with boxers, or do you think, or is he? I don't know myself either. I've never met him, but I've seen him. He seems to be very affable, very nice, very welcoming. Does he have that? Is he just that skilled, or does he have that natural killer predator instinct as well?
I think he's got it all, and what he's got more than the most boxers can wish for is that mindset, and he's an amazing hard worker in the gym.
Yeah.
Practice one particular punch 10,000 times over in training session. So he's very disciplined, lives a particular lifestyle, and it's all boxing. See a lot of the fighters, especially seeing here in the U.S., they'll run off and do stuff, and and nowadays in social media, they're everywhere, and they're like social, but they don't do the hours in the gym and the commitment that it takes.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing you see reflected in that even boxers who are just recreational boxers, essentially, they're putting so much content up, and they'll put content up which might encourage you to believe they've done like a really hardcore training session when that 15 seconds of bag work is possibly all they've done sometimes. You know what I mean? It's all about the perception nowadays, isn't it? And fighters are putting that stuff up online now.
That's right. And you know what? Here is the idea of creating an old school, trainer fighter camp where we could isolate and take all the BS away, and everybody checks in and take their phones away and say,
well, you know what?
Can I ask a quick question?
Go ahead.
Ivaylo, if you could name your top 3, who would you put pound for pound? 1, 2, 3.
Right now?
Yeah.
Well, we talked quite a bit about Usyk's skills. I think he's definitely one that I like on top, only because what is proven, a small, skilled little guy that comes up from the cruiserweights and handles big men such as, Joshua and Tyson Fury. So he's definitely one that I like to watch. And there's everything below is, arguable. So I
people
pick one.
talk about Inoue and Crawford.
No,
and the other guys.
what about I love Terence Crawford.
But I'm saying those are the 3 most people talk about when you ask that question.
And sorry, Gervonta Davis. Come on.
Yes, I'm with you, Michael.
Yeah,
Silk,
but Davis has not fought the competition yet. If I'm with you on that,
you're saying that Gervonta hasn't fought anybody as good.
I don't think he's fought pound for pound competition yet, but I'm with you on the.
Neither has Beterbiev really yet, although he will do in October. But
yeah, that'll be his first one. That's going to be a very exciting fight. Who are you going for in that one? Beterbiev and Bivol. Who you fancy?
Oh, you asking me?
yes.
I can't go against Bivol for no way. I think Bivol is the man to beat. And Beterbiev, hits like a mule, but I think Bivol is one of those fighters that will figure you out, and then they'll give you the fight of your life. And I think he'll overcome in that one. He's terrific.
That's where I'm at with that, Ivaylo. I'm the same as you. I've got the greatest respect for Beterbiev, and he is a wrecking machine. But I just think Bivol is a master technician, and I think he won't make it easy, but he can make it easier than most people would.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think for me, that fight is so pick'em. I think that's the best fight in boxing for the last 2 years and for the next 3 years.
Yeah. And have you seen the undercard, Ivaylo? Have you seen it's a pretty stacked card for Beterbiev versus Bivol?
But I haven't studied every single fight, but I'm sure they're gonna put a good one together, because especially
Shakur
after
Stevenson's on it. You've got Chris Eubank Jr. on it. The Ben Whittaker,
Who's
the flashy prospect.
Who's Eubank fighting, Ben?
Do you know what? It's nobody special, Gary. I can't remember the name, but the fact I can't remember his name should tell you what you need to know. It's one of those people I've not heard of. But Shakur Stevenson's fighting Joe Cordina on the show.
Is that a good fight?
It's an interesting fight. Cordina just got beat at featherweight, and now he's getting a title shot off the back of a stoppage loss, which is debatable. But you know how boxing is.
So
it's the Wild West.
I mean, how does that even make sense? It's not even. So I guess what you're saying is they have a lot of names on the card, but
Cordina is a big name in the UK, and he's fighting Shakur Stevenson, who's a big name globally, even though he's coming off a loss. So whether he should be getting a shot or not, boxing is the Wild West. But do you know what's interesting? There's also a female fight on that card in Saudi Arabia, October 12th. Raven Chapman versus Sky Nicholson. And people were asking when were the women going to get invited to this Saudi Arabian party, right? It's going to happen.
Wow. Okay.
Any thoughts, Ivaylo, on that particular aspect?
Well, they're doing it all, and obviously there's a lot of reasons why they're picking Saudi Arabia to be the next Mecca of boxing, and this is one. Hey, we let women fight. What about that? So it's a step in the right direction for them, and it's interesting how this country's coming.
And when they with any female fighters,
when they say Mecca, they mean Mecca. They can really mean Mecca this time.
Yeah, they're pretty close.
Yeah, because it's close. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was the true Mecca of boxing. Accept no invitations or substitutes. But have you worked with any female fighters, Ivaylo, for what it's worth?
Actually, one of Bulgarian descent. Her name is Joanna Namarue. She's actually a friend of Gary's. She's quite nice. I believe she's 6-0. Did it.
Yeah.
She's skilled in and out of the ring. She's got a little bit of dancing going on, dancing career. Started a few, I guess she's been in a movie or two, but Gary can tell you about her as well. He knows her. She's the one I've worked with in the females. I haven't had one. Currently, I'm looking at a girl, Cuban, who's with a friend of mine, Bones Adams. He asked me.
Oh, yeah, Clarence. Yeah.
Clarence Bones Adams, yeah. I go at his gym and see some of the fighters there, but he's got a Cuban girl fighter that's we're looking to help.
Mm-hmm. You really see a lot of growth and potential. You see a lot of potential in women's boxing.
Well, one Clarissa Shields and
I hate her.
Yeah,
you don't like her attitude, yeah?
There's the greatest thing I believe in the sport and in life is to be humble and to be the greatest of the greats. Yes, sure, maybe she is, maybe she's not, but to call out men fighters, she called out
Keith Thurman endlessly.
I'm sorry?
Keith Thurman was one.
She called out Keith Thurman. I mean, it's there's limits. So if she was more humble, I'd love her. But right now, no, I'm not a fan. No.
Yeah, I met her once. She's okay. She's okay in face to face, but a lot of people are, aren't they? Persona is one thing, and somebody's day-to-day ambience is another.
You know what, Ben? It's who you are when you talk on social media, or you are, when you're available and you have dialogue and it's on a constant, you get a general idea of who the person is. I've seen her for maybe 2 years, constant. And for me, it's not for me. So, I wish her the best, but I would love a young girl to come over and kick her fucking ass,
Ivaylo,
Yeah.
in the staying in the women's vein of boxing, the Imain Khalif. What do you think? What kind of does she have a good future in boxing and professional boxing? Do you think she can? I mean, she's got all the publicity in the world, that's for sure.
Check myself out of this one question because I'm not too familiar.
Okay.
So you don't. Well, what you might have heard of is the scandal around the Algerian welterweight, who a lot of people were saying was a biological male. Did you follow the story at all?
No.
Sorry.
Is that what?
Yes, that's what we're talking about.
Oh wow, that's man. I don't know if I want to touch that one with a 10-foot fall. It's a tough one, guys. And I think there should be some tests done before we could talk about that one. Really, some clarity is put into this one.
We're trying to get her on the show, but we need I've got a French and Arabic translator lined up, but I'm just having trouble right now trying to make contact with her. But we'll let you know how that goes anyway, and what transpires. It'll be interesting if she accepts.
I speak a bit of Arabic. I actually lived in Algeria for two years, so I could maybe help you guys out.
Oh, maybe you could have, Ala. Maybe you could reach out with your status in general, and maybe hook that up. That would be handy. We'll talk about that off camera.
I believe
not off camera, but off air.
I believe she's been in Bulgaria sparring with the Joanna Numerua. They have sparring together, and
yeah,
there's connection we can make. Absolutely, we'll try to line it up for you guys. But I was going to bring another name into female boxing, Savannah Marshall, who then first name came to my mind was the Clarissa Shields, but she's a terrific young lady, and she could sure fight. And she actually fought in Bulgaria on our card that we promoted back in 2018, Pulev versus Huey Fury.
Yes. I was going to say, but before Gary wanted to ask you a question, you were talking about Huey Fury, and you were talking about old school gyms and phones are banned and all that. When I went to interview Huey Fury and Peter Fury when he was getting ready to fight Joseph Parker, I was told before we went in there that if he sees you on your phone, you get kicked out of the gym straight away. He says, so don't even touch your phone when you walk in the gym. And that was quite refreshing, actually.
Yeah, well, like I said, Peter Fury is a great trainer, and he's strategist. He knows his stuff.
I watched that press conference earlier where you thanked him for getting rid of Klitschko before you. It was the Huey Fury Kabrat Pulev press conference, and you butted him up and said what a great trainer he was, and thank you very much for getting rid of Klitschko for us. I remember that.
I've been against the Klitschko's one too many times, so you guys got to understand my feeling toward him, and I've all their tricks over the years. And look, they did their thing, they did it their way, and they were on top for many years. I was actually getting a bit sick to the stomach watching them, do what
I think we all were, Ivaylo. I think that was the trouble. They're both such great gentlemen and such impressive individuals, and they were great fighters, but we were just so bored with it. And I think the Americans lost interest, hook, line, and sinker in the whole division, and they almost cancelled the heavyweight division in America because it was like, wake me when this reign is over. This stranglehold between the two of them.
And it took all Britain to wake people up.
Yeah, a gypsy king, a gypsy man. But
Joshua fought fight with Klitschko. Yeah, that was.
Yeah, that was a stunning ending. That was a good fight.
That's where I give Vlad the biggest credit for a fight he ever fought. The one he lost against Joshua. That was a great battle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're closing in on 59 minutes. Are we ready to? Is that a wrap, Silk, or is there a burning desire you have within you to have one more?
Yeah, I'll wait till you sign off, and then I'll ask him a question just before you're about to turn.
Yeah, because that's what you're basically an agent provocateur. That is you're like that nuisance kid at school. I've been working with kids this last couple of weeks, and there's one kid.
You know what? But they don't use the word nuisance anymore. Really, come on, you gotta get.
Well, that's a very nuisance-like thing to say. Very typical 100% Silk. Listen, Ivaylo, it's been great to have a conversation with you. about your illustrious career. Great to make your acquaintance. If you wait just 2 minutes, we'll have a quick say goodbye off the air. But guys, thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as we did. Thanks again to Ivaylo, Gotzev, major mover and shaker in the fight business. Mike,
and
go on.
yeah, and I did want to say if you could tell us about what you wanted to do in the future, actually with box, like, do you see yourself going in to be a mega promoter and hitting those areas, or?
You're not,
Yeah.
1 second, you're not serious that you're seriously doing that. You're not seriously going right in the middle of my clothes and asking a fucking
Oh, I'm
question. It
sorry.
ain't
I didn't,
happening.
I
It's not happening.
I didn't know you were closing. I wanted to ask our guest a parting question. Oh my God. You're so
like
sensitive.
hell you did. Like hell you did. Sorry about this, Ivaylo. He does this. It's one of his things to do.
Yeah,
See,
well,
whatever. This
I
show
really
ain't
did.
big enough for it to
No, I
matter.
really do want to know that, Ben. But you
Okay,
didn't give
go
me.
ahead. But then guess what? You're closing the show after that. You go ahead and close. But that's the question.
yeah.
Yes, yes. What is your, like, the end game for you? Where do you really want to be in boxing as a player? You're a strong player already, but where do you want to be? Where do you see yourself?
Okay, so let me tell you something about my whole vision and understanding of life and business life, which is all connected in my book. You know, how you live your life and the business you choose. And uh, back early stages of my life, you know, when I moved to America, I was 18 years old. I used to run construction companies. Had, you know, companies open in 4 different states. I was quite successful, and I did it with passion. You know, I did it with passion, and I did it for as long as I could. But then something that overcame that was more passion I had for boxing. So I've been very passionate about this business, and this is a business that quite often, you know, brings you, you know, sorrows, if you will, because you're not always successful. You don't always win, and especially when you're a young man from Bulgaria and trying to, you know, make it. It wasn't easy for me at all. I didn't have a big giant corporation behind me. I wasn't with Top Rank, you know, backing me, or ESPN, or any of the contracts these big promoters are getting. So, but I always had the passion, and that's what drove me in this business to the very top fighters, the very top level. Uh, I tried to leave the game, you know, because at times I was like bored and losing that particular passion. I just can't. I just can't. So I will remain in the game, and I will remain in good company. Now I know better than ever how to collaborate and bring the right players in.
Yeah.
Few investors come in, and with our know-how and ability to connect worldwide now, with good promoters and great fighters out there. I think the future is great for me and Mike and our company, Epic Sports and Entertainment. Alongside with that, I'm developing projects in film, and somehow we're going to connect content, you know, boxing content outside of the ring, rolls into the ring with presentation of the fighters, and then films will be made. So we're connecting the dots. So we'll do film and boxing, and it's looking great. And I'm excited about what's to come.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
All right. We'll definitely be looking out for you and supporting. And thank you so much for
Absolutely.
doing what you do and bringing us some great fights. Really
Thank you.
appreciate
On that note, okay, guys, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back on Friday for more mayhem that you've become
it. I thought
accustomed
I was
to.
closing out. You said I was closing out.
Yeah, go ahead and fucking close. Go on.
Yeah. For Gary, myself, Mr. Gotzev, and of course Yosemite Sam. He's always in a bad mood, but you know, we'll see y'all. Keep punching. See you next week. Thank you very much for being with us.